We know. Hello, welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. My name is John Preposterous Ryan. Very sorry for the late start. We had to do the newspaper. We had to put up the papers, and they've just gone up. Joining us tonight are Johnny Keenan from Kilkenny, Marcel Kruger, who's from the very large Cologne community in Dundalk, and Neil Curran is in Dublin, and Olga hopefully will be joining us later. She's on a she's got a shift, she's got a subbing shift in, and so she hopefully will be joining us later. Firstly, before I just go quickly to the papers, Johnny is going to tell us about the One Love Festival, or the One Love concert that he has organised with Lucky, who works with the direct provision people and was a direct provision person himself. Johnny, what's it all about?
Excuse me, John. Just had a chocolate mouse. If anyone remembers the chocolate mouse, you know what I'm talking about.
White or pink?
Oh, no, what?
White or pink?
No, chocolate. Like, this is brown.
Oh, it's for chocolate.
Coffee. They're lovely. I haven't had one in years, so excuse me while I digest this. The One Love concert, John. It's the end of summer vibe. Give it its correct name. Stroke One Love concert. So basically, we're bringing two. If I can get this up now for your.
This will be in September, Johnny. Yeah.
10th of September, John. Yeah.
The end of September.
No, sorry. Excuse me. The 10th, Sunday, the 10th of September.
Oh, okay. Sunday, the 10th, and it's in the amphitheater.
Am I speaking German, Marcel? What's going on here? The 10th, after the 9th.
That's my, I can't pronounce but it's in the amphitheater. Is it in Kilkenny?
It's a beautiful venue, John. About 7 kilometers from Kilkenny City, you've got Ballykeep Amphitheater. It's absolutely amazing. It was a natural quarry. And some guys out there who had a bit of land decided to develop it into a music venue. Real cool heads. And they've been running gigs there from, I don't know, maybe the last 5 years. The first one was Saxon, if you can believe. Remember Saxon? Yeah. Metal band, yeah. So they got rained off. You know the lead singer, wow. And so that was about 5 years ago. And since then, they've had... brilliant Damien Dempsey, obviously fantastic. They had the Riptide Movement this year. They had
and it's open air.
It's open air, about 800 capacity. So it's against the quarry, as I say. So you got natural acoustics, and it's unbelievable. It's a dream for any band. Any band that's played there really want to come back, and any band that's heard of it want to play there. So Stockton's Wing are playing next Saturday.
Okay.
Tomorrow, yeah. So they're a fantastic band, obviously going on for 4 decades. So they blend a nice fusion of reggae and trad. They're very much influenced by Aboriginal and African music as well. So that'll set it up really nicely for what's going to happen 2 weeks after that, which is the In the Summer Vibe One Love concert that we were talking about, maybe getting involved in, going back as far as April on the Broadsheet on the Telly, and we came across Lucky through Olga. And it was brilliant. Lucky's an amazing man. You know, he's traveling all over the country. He was in Donegal there last week, and he was in Monaghan there today, I think. You know, letting people know in relation to seminars and forums and just town hall meetings about what's going on in direct provision. And he's set up his grassroots organisation, as you know.
Yeah.
Maasai Movement of Asylum Seekers Ireland. So basically, the event is it's a One Love concert. For all the right reasons. We're living in really turbulent times, you know, in relation to what's happening across the ocean in last week. That can have a ripple effect. So we have to kind of, you know, counteract that straight away, bring people together. And what's the best way to bring people together? Through music. And what's the best kind of music to bring people together? Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Johnny,
So yes, John.
Sorry, having the poster.
I'm working on getting the poster.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Yeah. So you know, I'm building it up, John. The stride, the vibes are being built. And so, yeah, Neil, you told me how to do this, right?
I did.
So I bring it in like that. Yeah. Have we got it? No.
No, we haven't got you yet.
I'll tell you what, Johnny. Let's go to that at the end of the show then.
Yeah, sorry about that, lads.
Not at all, not at all, because Neil is going to...
Okay, there we go.
you got it up, have you?
I have it there now, yeah?
You've got the, yeah, kind of.
Okay, right, yeah, I have it there now. Neil showed me.
Just press Control and L, Johnny. Tech Support 101 here.
So this is a One Love concert.
Yeah, okay, we got that there.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
Right, it's fantastic. The great graphic designer is Martin Leahy, or Lahy, whichever side of the river you're on in Kilkenny. And Martin is brilliant. Free gratis, did this for free because he believes in the concept and what it is. It's about music lovers and communities communicating and coming together for the greater good in one love and one unity. So the picture, as you see, is Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. So it's important that Peter Tosh is in this because it's the Wailers that affect the one love concept in relation to the music that's within this show. People who are familiar with reggae and the Wailers know that Peter Tosh was shot, murdered in a random, I suppose, a burglary 30 years ago in his home in Kingston, Jamaica. So that's on actually the 11th of September 1987. So we got Catch a Fire. If you see in the Summer Vibe One Love concert, we got two reggae acts. First one is Catch a Fire, which I know from a long while, going back to 2002. When I came across them first, I was really into bringing a Bob Marley tribute to Kilkenny. And they said, we cost a few bob, and I was going, okay, right, what's the price? And they go, okay, right, that's not within my budget. I said, do you play your own music? And they said, oh, we do actually. We're called King Sativa. So basically, King Sativa were on the go for a while, and Catch a Fire were the cover band that played all Marley music. So they were the ultimate reggae band, essentially. And that out of the ashes of King Sativa came Bionic Rats. And Bionic Rats now are the premier reggae band, I would say, in Ireland. And they're resident in the Foggy Dew every Sunday, plug. And first Friday in every month in the Grand Social. So they're essentially playing the music of the Wailers, which is Catch a Fire, which was their second album, I think. And a lot of Peter Tosh's music as well. So they'll start off the proceedings at 2 o'clock on Sunday the 10th of September, John.
Okay. And if it's raining?
If it's raining, some feel the rain, others just get wet.
Okay.
As Bob says, John, we have to kind of come to the conclusion in this country that sometimes it rains, but you know what? You know what I do when it rains?
Johnny?
I put on my rain jacket, and that's so there's a good chance that it might rain.
Yeah. But
there's a good chance it could be sunny as well because we've been getting Indian summers in September. But the main important thing is that the stage is covered. So the equipment is dry, the band are dry, and all we got to do is dance in relation to one love, one unison, one peace, one harmony. So, yeah, go on.
No, please, Johnny, go on.
Okay, so and we have let me get through this quickly, John. The Catch a Fire will be starting off proceeding. Then we got a brilliant hip hop band from Kilkenny, originally from South Africa, living and working in Kilkenny, and they're a brilliant band, Crack Appeal. So they're a fantastic hip hop outfit for the minute. And then there's a brilliant band from Tullamore called Telly. Not essentially reggae, but very much soul. I call them the Bog Boys of Blues. But they're blending nicely in relation to the vibe of the day. And then taking us home then will be Buffalo Soul, which will have all the more later Bob Marley and the Wailers kind of music. But essentially it's all about inclusion and positive vibes through the form of good music.
Yeah.
The tickets over the weekend. I'll be putting up an event, and I'm sure you'll be able to send the link on afterwards. Basically, sorry, John.
How much will they be?
Okay, right. So because it's kind of a family event, it's not exclusively family. We want teenagers to come. People of all ages. A family ticket will cost you €20. For that, it's 2 adults and two kids, 2 children under 16. And then it'll be €10 for over 16s. Now the thing is, you can buy them locally in Roller Coaster Records, the best little small record shop in the country, in the world probably, and the Book Centre in Kilkenny. Now, there's no handling charge from what I'm aware, and neither of those. Maybe there is, sorry. But if you buy them on Ticketmaster, they'll be available on Ticketmaster by Saturday at the latest. There's probably a booking fee and handling charge, but expect to pay no more than $12.80. And what you're still getting a bargain, obviously. Now, on the day, we're encouraging people to BYOP, bring your own picnic. And Lucky is liaising with the after expenses, because there is expenses, and it'll all become transparent as the expenses are come in. And we want to pay everyone accordingly. Now, the bands have taken a big cut in relation to what they would usually charge, so that we're basically covering their expenses. So no one's going to be out of pocket for this, John. You know, because an awful lot of these guys give up their free gigs anyway for causes on a regular basis. That's what musicians do, and they're always asked to do it. So, as a music promoter myself, I don't think it's fair to ask artists to do a gig for nothing. So, but they're doing it for as minimal as they can, which is great. And any funds that's raised after expenses will go to two organizations, two charities, whatever you want to call them. One of them is from talking to Lucky with the direct provision in the southeast region, because we're dealing with the southeast region. That's where Kilkenny is. So you've got two direct provision centres in Tramore, you've got two direct provision centres in Waterford, and you've got one direct provision centre in Carrigan Shore. Yeah. So we're gonna give the money raised 70% after expenses to the children within these direct provision centres that will help fund for school books and uniforms, whichever is the greater need. And then the 30% is we go to a friend of mine who I'm working with in relation to, he's doing a series of fundraisers for his his PPMS, which is a form of multiple sclerosis, and he needs to go to Russia to get stem cell surgery in November 2018. So 70 grand is needed for that. So he's going to benefit from that. Now, the reason he's going to benefit from that is because this is exactly the kind of event that he would organize himself. He's been to Barcelona. He set up the first multilingual and still the only multilingual comedy festival in the world. So he's used to dealing with people from all cultures and creeds and such, and bringing people together. So it's very important that he should benefit from something like this. And he's helped me as much as he can with the online marketing as well. So
okay.
Basically, John, there's this is 100% positive. It's the 10th of September. Unfortunately, we're up against the ladies, but that can't be helped because this is the only date. We tried to get the date that would suit everyone, and this was the only date, unfortunately. So we're up against the All-Ireland Camogie final on the 10th of September, and that's a bit of a blow because Kilkenny obviously are in it because they're always in the final against Cork. So that'll clash.
Oh,
but listen, but the thing is, John, about this place, this amphitheatre in Ballykeefe, it's an amazing venue, you know, and people actually do come from all over the country. And because it's a Sunday afternoon and it's a family-orientated festival or event, concert rather, and it's a BYOP, bring your own picnic, and we'll meet people from direct provision. Now, people from direct provision that'll be coming obviously can't afford the tickets, even though they are minimally priced. They just don't have any money. So we want to just invite them in and let them experience a great music event, a great concert, because that's something that they wouldn't have access to. So okay, they'll be there, and we want people to come together and share their picnic and share the experience and share the vibe that we're trying to create here.
Okay, that's great, yeah. Johnny. We'll look it on the site, but we'll also mention it next week and stuff, and we'll push everything out for it.
Thanks, John.
Not at all, and it's great. Who's the quote on the poster? Who's that from?
Well, that's Bob himself. Yeah, one good thing about music, when it hits you, feel no pain, and I was actually going to have on it, and there was a lot of chopping and changing, so I really wrecked Martin's head. He's got his own job, and he's doing this as a favor. So, unfortunately, I annoyed him. But we came to this quote, and basically, what's happening, you know, as I said, across the ocean, it can only have a ripple effect in relation to getting people agitated. So we need to stop it. We need to stop it in its tracks. One good thing about music, when it hits you, feel no pain. Music is a leveler in relation to any situation. And Bob Marley, what he preached, what he sang, Peter Tosh as well. You know, equal rights and justice. It's about standing up for your rights, but doing it in a very peaceful and respectful and demonstrate manner. And music is the tool here. So that's a very profound quote, but it has a reason. It has resonance, and hopefully it'll have effect, because it's about bringing that energy to Ballykeep on Sunday the 10th of September. Gates at 1 p.m. Show goes on from 2 to 6. So it's a fantastic afternoon. If there's a better afternoon going on for a better cause, I want to hear about it.
Okay, Johnny, thank you so much. What an incredible plug you've just got.
Right, yeah. It's going out to 10,000 people at least, surely.
Yeah, sorry it's clashing with the Camogie. And
that's good.
Neil, would you be able to quickly just share the papers there, just visually, so we can...
Yeah, indeed.
Move on.
I don't know if I'll have the breath that Johnny has to talk. Hang on, let me see if we can find it here.
These are tomorrow's newspaper covers.
Tomorrow's papers.
Oh,
awkward pause, John. Awkward pause. Here we go. You should see that now.
Okay.
Okay. I think I might have to talk to keep it up on screen.
Oh, you've got to... Oh, Christ, yeah. Okay.
Right. Do you want me to talk about this, John?
Okay, Neil.
Okay, Olga, I apologize deeply for not matching your ability in this. So, Minister Boxer Moran says that 450 million is not enough for flood defences, and he's not talking about a tribunal. So this is in relation, obviously, to the weather, the extreme weather that the northwest of the country has seen. I haven't read any of these papers yet, so this comes with the caveat that I'm finding out as we go. I don't know, any of you guys, well, none of you guys would have seen that weather. Johnny, you were safely sheltered in Kilkenny, I presume?
Didn't get it, Neil, no. But
no.
You're talking about the Donegal situation?
Yeah, Donegal and Derry, some graphic pictures of flooding in Derry Airport, so it seemed pretty catastrophic in some areas.
There's a story there, the students swindled out of the 60 also just at the bottom, underneath the photograph. Yeah.
19-year-old student. Yeah, I mean, this has kind of been in the news a lot about people capitalizing on the rental crisis. And I know Joe Duffy had a segment one time where someone had gave him a tip off about, I think it was somebody based in the UK had properties available and had taken thousands, and they got them on the phone. Of course, there's no comeback on it. So a warning to people. And we're seeing them as well in the news about a call for the return of the bedsit as a mechanism to address the rental crisis. I don't think that's a silver bullet for it, but that's the direction it's going in. And I suppose as people are being exposed to fraud like this and are taken up, it shows how desperate things really are.
So the scandal is that they're shown a property and then they pay the deposit and then they come back and the property's not owned by the person they pay the money to.
Yeah, or there just isn't a proper. Well, I guess maybe this one, but I know other ones there's no property in the first place.
Okay.
Pretty dire.
So they didn't even go and see it properly. It's just they saw it online or viewed it.
Yeah, I guess it's renting off plans, whatever the equivalent is. Yeah. So pretty, again, highlighting how desperate the rentals, the property crisis is in the country.
You know, we were launching, myself and Laura, the Decent Gaffs thing, and we got one landlord, one decent landlord, and he actually pulled out then because there's pictures. The place looked really a bit ropey, so our one landlord wasn't really that decent. So,
but you know, it's interesting because if you look at some of the forums online, boards.ie have a particularly popular accommodation forum, and you can get a sense as you read them about the bitter divide that there exists in Ireland between the landlord and tenant. I mean, there is a view that the landlord is still this Dickens era type evil bastard of a creature, and you know, there's no middle ground. And there was one story on it that I thought was interesting, where a guy who was a landlord had what was deemed to be an ideal tenant. They stopped paying. left a note, left arrears, and I think the tenant left a note on the bed and just disappeared and claimed that
yesterday,
financial hardship. And you know, it turns out the person that seemed to have pulled a fast one. And what was interesting when that was on boards was there was no commentary from the on the thread from the anti-landlord brigade. So it just really highlights, you know, again, there's so many accidental landlords, and this, you know, there's no black and white with this issue, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to go back to the drawing board with decent gaffs, but I think there's a reluctance. I think they do feel the divide. You know, they do feel like they're despised. So maybe they don't want to be part of something like this. But
yeah, I mean, we don't have it. Being a landlord is not. It's like when you look at the accidental landlords, I'd imagine for, you know, those landlords that are legit, it's not equitable to be a landlord. You know, it's not. It's very difficult to break even if you've got a hefty mortgage, because you can't claim your mortgage, with the exception of the interest piece. You can't claim the capital of a mortgage as a business expense for tax purposes.
14,000 tax free.
Say again?
You'll get 14,000 tax free. I mean, if
that's if you're renting out a room, but if you're renting out the full property, so if you imagine maybe couples who bought during the boom and perhaps relationships are broken up and they're renting out the house, or, you know, it's the interest part of it's only a percentage of the interest part of the mortgage that I believe is tax deductible. So it's costing money to rent out. So yeah, it's not going to get better. And you know, the knock on is now we're seeing. Certainly anecdotal stories. I don't know how much of it is based on you know, we don't have stats for that long about this tenants reluctant to move, or skilled workers reluctant to move to Dublin because of the housing crisis. And there was a story I can't remember where I saw it today, maybe it was on the site, about the tech worker who is hired as a contractor and gets paid 90 days after hire, and he's living in homeless accommodation even though he's got a high-profile job as such, and he had some grim stories from the homeless shelter. So, you know, this is desperate. You know, it really is.
And that's not only in Dublin. There's already an overspill up here. We're an hour away from Dublin, but this week, like, one of the biggest employers in Dundalk, it's a pen company. I forgot the name. But anyway, because they cannot find place, so they ask the public if they've got a room to spare somewhere in Dundalk because the rental situation is so bad. So this is just a sign of the times, I guess. And this is the thing. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks back already. Is that, you know, like when Enda was back at the helm, I think it was earlier this year actually, saying, like, we've got all these fantastic multinational companies bringing in their people to Ireland, and then we were saying in our little brand, but when no one's offering properties for rent, where are these fantastic new workers from all over the globe? Where are they going to stay? And we're seeing that now.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm a regular visitor to California, and if you look at the likes of Silicon Valley, where that whole peninsula, you know, has we think the prices are bad here in Dublin or in Ireland. It's shocking what people pay in rent in that area. And there's regularly, you'll see stories in the papers about tech workers who live in their cars because, you know, the cost of rent is such a sizable portion of their income. You know, again, high skilled workers who are in sharing accommodations that you would equate to what it was like being a first year student, perhaps, if you were lucky back in the day. So, you know, it gives a grim view of what the future could hold for Ireland if something isn't done.
Neil, could you go to the Examiner? I think it's this.
Yeah.
It's very high tech.
Very high tech. So the White Walkers, I don't know what that's about. It's not Game of Thrones. Anger for a call for parity on teacher salaries. So I think this comes up pretty regularly about pay for teachers. They've got a pretty hard time of it. Pay restoration certainly hasn't brought it back up to a level that they were at previous. I don't know, John, do you know more on that?
Yeah, today Mary Mitchell O'Connor was calling for parity, wage parity, and this has angered her Fine Gael colleagues because they don't believe in all that kind of stuff. That's not their thing.
Just window dressing.
But obviously, she's gone. Mary has gone a bit rogue after she was demoted. But
as a super minister.
But I do think her point is no junior. I think, but
not super. No,
I think no. But her point is obviously very valid. But it's angered some people. I'm not too sure who in Fine Gael it's angered. But Neil, if you've got the paper there, maybe you.
Let me see what we can.
Oh yeah.
Richard Bruton.
Yeah. Pascal's
in there as well.
Okay.
And John Paul Phelan. Usual suspects.
Okay, the whole gang.
The gang's all here.
That's the photograph from the Examiner is the Miss Ireland contestants for this year.
Oh, is that what that is?
And
there's 2 lovely girl competitions in the 1 week.
The Rosa Tralee as well.
I thought the feminist movement was strong in this country, or maybe that's a feminist thing as well. Is it the lovely girl competition?
Well, the Rosa Tralee is taking the turn for the worst. I saw that thing.
Whoa! Just because Offaly won it, Neil.
Oh no! There was a question asked after she won in a press conference. I saw in the paper today where I think the question was, "Will you be commenting on the 8th Amendment?" And a male, some guy, was definitely a man, intervened and said no, answered on her behalf and said no. So they're taking politics completely out. It's a way for it to connect to young people, and they're taking that out completely. So it really is a lovely girls' competition now.
Well, that would have been very interesting because she is a doctor, isn't she?
She is, yeah. It's very sad. It's kind of like sticking your head in the sand on issues that are topical that particularly connect with young people. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Would you mind? They're the only Irish papers that we have in at the moment. But below the Examiner is the Telegraph, the Daily Telegraph. There's quite a good. Quote from Van Morrison at the top of the masthead.
His never smile is absurd.
Yeah.
What's Van saying?
He's saying the idea that I never smile is absurd.
Oh yeah, sorry.
He growled. So I don't know if you're Van Morrison fans at all.
Yeah, I like the way he can spell.
His spell,
yeah, Gloria.
Oh, well, Marcel, the last time we spoke to you, you had been to the Taste Festival, Ivy Gardens, the food, the gourmet thing, and you had a right old German bashing. You just got stuck in with your goose stepped out in there, and just you weren't happy with it at all, were you?
And there hasn't been one since, Marcel.
No. That's the thing. I haven't been. I was at a lovely music festival here in Louth, but no, I didn't go to any of the other food festivals, the Big Grill or anything. Which incidentally, I think the neighbors of Herbert Park complained about the whole thing about that a public park was being offered for a commercial festival. So that was interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't go to any.
No, you said you went to a music festival up in York. Was that well run? Was that to your standards, your high?
Yeah, we have a lovely. It was in its second year. We've got a lovely homegrown music festival. It's called Arcadian Fields, and that's just run at the former estate just outside of Dundalk. In its second year, and all the bands were local, so there were no big headliners, no nothing. And because of that, it was like a really nice atmosphere of just people enjoying the music. So there were no fanboys, and there was no overpriced. That was nice.
There was no what?
No overpriced pulled pork.
Oh, no overpriced. Yeah. So the Big Grill got a lot of stick. The Taste got a lot of stick. So You're going to have to do your own festival, Marcel, I think.
Am I allowed to make a German bratwurst joke now, or will I leave that for later?
Please.
I don't know any. But yeah, so maybe I'll set up a German bratwurst festival. Who knows?
Come to our One Love festival. How about that? Bring your own. It's a big picnic.
He's ignoring you, Johnny.
Marcel, can I ask you, will you be attending one of the nation's most luxurious food festivals in Oktoberfest? Any of the Irish Oktoberfest stick your appeal?
I've been to the one in Dublin ages ago, but that's the thing, is like people perceive the Oktoberfest as being a German cultural export, but coming from Cologne or from near Cologne, you view it as by with it, so I wouldn't properly enjoy it. I don't even like the white beer. So no, I don't think I will.
Is it like the Irish pub abroad, the Oktoberfest here, is it?
Yeah, more or less.
Fair enough. Marcel, the EU flag is fluttering behind you. How have you seen how do you gauge the Brexit negotiations for Ireland and our future within the EU? And
I think was it this week or the week before that somebody, I don't know, was a correspondent of the Financial Times, when the UK was saying, okay, look, we will agree to an open border if we get the trade thing going, and that was the moment then people said, okay, now Ireland has become like a poker chip in the whole negotiations thing. And I was like, yeah, that's, everyone was waiting for it, but yeah, so the whole thing looks like from the outside like the
I think we didn't get it.
Every time he goes to say something key, we lose him.
Yeah, somebody's cutting you out when just at the crucial sentence.
Yeah, that's I'm so close to the border, John. That's the thing.
The Wi-Fi is rubbish there. I mean, do you go into Northern Ireland a lot, Marcel?
I do. Yeah, I've got a couple of friends in Belfast, so I'm up there quite often. So.
And are they concerned, obviously?
Yeah, obviously they all voted to remain. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole thing plays out for them on a local level. And I like to go hiking. So like literally, like, I walk from my house, I walk across the border without seeing it and knowing it.
And like, would you could walk into Northern Ireland without?
Yeah, because like once you're in the hills, it's just like you wouldn't know that you're across the border. You might see a street sign that says miles per hour, then suddenly, but there is no discernible difference.
Do you shop up north?
Say again?
Do you shop in Northern Ireland?
Depending on how the pound is.
But if you were buying big ticket items like a washing machine or something, would you go up north?
Potentially, yeah, but we're renting out, so it's a landlord's duty.
Oh, okay.
Great. You should do a piece in relation to tenants' rights there.
I can do that, no worries.
Marcel, the renting culture obviously in Germany is completely different, and the tenants' rights are really very, very, very strong and strict and severe. Do you think the problem here is a landlord issue or a supply issue, or how do you?
No, not so much. I wouldn't say it's like the landlord issue. I think it's more there's up to a certain degree. It's a cultural thing as well, because in Germany no one would aim to own property until they're 30, 35, 40 even. So my parents rented out as long as I can remember until I was like 15 or 16. So they were in the 40s when they bought their first property. And that's like still a very prevalent thing in Germany that people would just rent out more. So there's not this urge to own a property from as early on as you can allow it or not allow it, depending on the mortgages. But there's a cultural aspect in that too. And I think this is why the longer you stay in a place in Germany as a tenant over the years, the longer the notice period that your landlord
have to evict you. You know, they yeah. So if you're there like 20 years, there's like maybe a year.
Well, it might even be like if there's a granny living somewhere for 20, 30 years, it might even be 2 years notice. But that's changing a lot in the cities as well. So we see the same things that are happening in Dublin, so that bigger investors move in. So it's not the kind of typical landlord who has 1 or 2 properties that he's renting out and looking after everything himself. It's more that the big investors move in. They would have a management company who looks after the property and so on and deals with the tenants. We see these things happening in Berlin and Cologne as well. So it's I think it's all capitalism
So what do you make of the situation in Ireland? I mean, it seems to be almost unresolvable, particularly with the current political regime.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up there.
Oh, sorry, Marcel.
It's the Brexit. I'm sorry, it really is the Brexit.
No, I was just saying. Yeah, exactly. What do you make of the situation here in Ireland? I mean, it's so unresolvable. It seems so unresolvable. The cultural shift that needs to be taken.
Yeah, but I think that's taken place already now. That people are being more aware of tenant rights but it's plenty obvious. Like when you look at the homeless numbers, and it's not even about people in work or people who might afford a certain amount per month to rent our places. It's just no one's building social housing anymore.
Yeah.
No, and that's, I think when I look at it from the outside, I think that's like the most pressing issue that this country has at the moment. It's like, because and don't get me wrong, Ireland is quite a small country, so it should be possible to take like homeless numbers that are in the hundreds and fix that problem.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, the visuals in Dublin, Neil. I was talking to somebody yesterday saying that they're obviously, it doesn't need to be aesthetically this bad. I mean, the people who are sleeping on the streets, something can be done immediately for them, but there's obviously no great will. Therefore, these are there just to continue desensitizing us to this problem. Is that it?
Yeah, we're just. You can't even say we're putting plasters on wounds, because it's more the acts of the public and the charities to help out that seems to be the order of the day. Like, the government is just not moving on the issue. Like, they're completely stagnant. There's talk, but the talk isn't being initiated by them. Well, certainly that's my perception on it. And it's getting increasingly worse. And even those stories we talked about earlier, where now you've got people in jobs who are in dire crisis. That post from the site from, was it last week, with that apartment that was 3,000? Was it a 1-bed apartment that was €3,150 per month? Now I know that included a few bills, and the queue was around the block, and that was what that was. I can't remember. I was Dublin 4.
Yeah,
I mean, that's shocking. I sent that on to some friends, and they thought it was a wind-up.
Yeah, I know. But actually, apparently that turned out to be a kind of a, one of those apartments where it's like a hotel almost, or something. Service department. Yeah, they bring towels and stuff. So I think there was some element that was different. And
it's quite a shock for a 1-bed. Quite shocking. Even if you take a couple of hundred off it, it's still.
Yeah. And Marcel, are you renting up in Dundalk?
It's not bad in Dublin, obviously, but we're starting to feel the pain. Essentially, I just remembered the name of the company. It's National Pen, and they put out this call.
What was the company's name? National Pen.
Up with rooms. National Pen. Yeah, it's one of the bigger employers.
Okay. And they were looking for like people to people.
Yeah, because they can't have accommodation for people that they are newly bringing into the company from the outside, because there's not enough places for rent out here.
Yeah.
So they issued this call to the public, so whoever has spare room to put up a new hire for them.
And that's like sort of like, can you put them up on a couch or a spare room and stuff like that? That's
something like that. So I think it's just a sign, that we're feeling the pressure here now as well. Certainly, I think the rents here went up. I looked at the rents last year, and then now I think it's about 17 or 18% as well. So, which is not much compared to Dublin, but still. We're getting there.
I noticed there was controversy today about that ad from the IB, Johnny O'Neill.
Bank of Ireland.
Bank of Ireland, and she's going back to her parents to save up for her first mortgage.
Yeah,
and it was withdrawn.
It was withdrawn. There was a big backlash on Twitter about it, that it was perpetuating again this notion that you have to, putting pressure on young people to feel that these are the drastic measures that they should be willing to take to buy property. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that mindset. I don't think I kind of do believe the bank had good intention with it, but it's the wrong messaging at a desperate time. It's horrendous timing with it. Like it kind of, you could argue it's slightly in bad taste. Although, but George Hook today, I heard him going off on one about it. I don't know. George Hook's a bit like Howard Stern. You listen to him because just to see what a census thing he's going to say next. It's pretty.
I think Howard Stern could take an action against you on that.
But yeah, I mean,
so the object is like that. You might not even have parents. I mean, what's the argument there? It's like,
well,
don't rent. Go back and just save for one of our mortgages.
Punish yourself. If you want to have a house, you have to live a lifestyle that limits your limits your capacity to enjoy a quality of life in order to save for a property. Because if you don't have a property, you're not cool or whatever.
Yeah, I suppose politically speaking, Johnny, the right-wing party, should we say, will be reliant on mortgage holders to be their voters. I mean, a mortgage holder, you essentially become a little bit more, I suppose, right-wing, I guess. I don't know. Neil, you become more right-wing when you bought your house.
I don't know. I agree with that, but just to the point about, because I was a bit infuriated at Hookie's comment about, it's been hard in every generation. Certainly my parents, like I imagine most parents, it was pretty much a one income household. But in the current climate, you've got both parents working to sustain a mortgage, and if one partner in the couple run into financial difficulty or lose their job, then that can be quite catastrophic. So I don't know. I don't think you can politicalize house ownership, John. Really, can you?
Well, I think she got her wish, really. The people who bought their council houses tended then to vote Tory for the next generation or so. I mean, I think it turned after Blair, but Johnny.
Yeah, it's a changing of the guard with Leo Varadkar in there. We're living in a really, really serious time, lads. It's 8,000 people are homeless, and most of them are in Dublin. You see it every time you go up to Dublin. Like in Kilkenny, there's 2 people homeless on the main street. They slept there last night, and that's a big discussion on Facebook within Kilkenny, because 2 people is today 2 people. Next week it could be 10 people. People are being driven out of the market in Dublin. They can't afford it. It's as simple as that. There's no new jobs being created. They're talking about moving back home to their families if they're lucky enough to have a family, a roof over their head. But this decentralization needs to be a serious option in relation to creating jobs away from Dublin, because it's an oversaturated market in relation to the housing, in relation to jobs, and it needs, because there's enough land outside of Dublin to build. Owen Murphy needs to get the developers into a room and saying, you're building, and this is the price you're building at. That has to be the ultimatum, because when they were building the motorways, whether you had land on the motorways or not, it didn't matter. You had to give up your land for the motorway. The developers have to give up their prices and all this bollocks that they're going on with in order for the common good of people. Because people, I was at a gig in Whelan's last night. Grantley Phillips from Grantley Buffalo, brilliant gig, really happy vibe. Came out, and the reality was there was a middle-aged woman, and she, you know when you see someone, you know that they're not homeless by choice, and unfortunately, an awful lot of homeless people are homeless by circumstances because they're into drugs or whatever. But this woman obviously was literally going around with her trolley and not a roof, and so that is homeless 2017. It's just across the board. It's not discriminatory. It's serious, and a whole summer's gone by where they could have done something, and it's going to get colder and it's going to get very worse. So I don't really know what's going on, but it has to be the number one thing that we have to be dealing with as a society. I from organising this gig for direct provision, something had to be done. We're talking about it for months, but what's coming back is a lot of support, obviously, some fantastic support, but an awful lot. Well, we have to go after our own, the homeless problem. We have to deal with 1 or 2 or 3 things before the Christmas. And homeless has to be top of that. We're doing a gig for the people in direct provision who have a roof over their head, but their conditions is shit. So you can't compare. But it all lends to mental health as well. You know, as a society, and Marcel says, we are a small country. There shouldn't be a homeless problem up to the problem that is. As you kind of said, you know, it's almost a political thing. How would they care for homeless people? But that's in fact. It's got so out of hand, so out of control that they think that it's going to solve itself. Now the developers are the problem here. They can develop, they can build. They have to be told what to do.
Johnny and Marcel and maybe Neil could jump in here. That I can imagine it'll be quite an Irish thing that we'll start this huge house building thing. We'll then have another crash and. We'll be left with a ghost apartment blocks and things like that.
We're definitely going to have another crash. It's just the price, you know, that with such a supply is so throttled. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in again ahead of you lads. Supply is so throttled that if and when the government does take action, that's the next big risk. That if there is some incentive to increase supply, that we'll see another fallout in the property market, and we already have a generation that's been wiped out. I mean, that's going to be an interesting one for the pension crisis, because a lot of those people won't have properties, so when they're retiring, that's a factor that has to be taken into consideration. So 2 property crashes in close succession, that's not going to be good for the nation.
I suppose. You know, I lack a kind of a formal education in these things, but economically speaking, if the supply doesn't arrive, I mean, what happens then? I mean, if supply can't meet demand, what ultimately happens in that situation?
Okay, well, the 500 million. Sorry to go across there, but 500 million was offered by the head of credit unions. 5.5 billion. A serious amount of money was offered in relation to mortgages and. To deal with the housing epidemic as it is, but that was 2 years ago, and he was. And why didn't the government take him up on that? That was the head honcho of the credit unions, that they were going to release millions, 500 million, I think it was, to people to get on the property ladder. So that means that there's money in the country to create these houses. So then you compromise between social housing and the private sector, but to have it stopped, so that we wait till the economy picks up, whatever the economy. And someone made the point there recently: are we in an economy or are we in a society? You know, we need to choose. You know, because the society looks after everyone, and economy looks after the elite. So that these are kind of moralistic questions we have to ask ourselves. And should we have moral politics in place, or should we have economic politics in place? Because I'm sick of economists talking shit, and not enough people talking about what's real. and how we can work through it,
Neil,
as a people.
Just culturally speaking, like you've got kids and whatnot. Would you?
I have a dog.
A dog, but you've got a kid next month. I mean, the grace of God, you'll be a father next month. Renting doesn't appeal to you then at all, is it? You have to own your place. Really.
Oh no, I do rent. I do rent, but it's fine when you don't have children. I guess it's a little bit easier to come to terms with when you're renting. But when you have, I imagine when you have children, but certainly something I think about as well, what school do I enroll my children in? Because I don't know where I'm going to be living next year, never mind in 4 years or 5 years. And that's a concern, because you realize that you don't have any control or certainty around your future when it comes to where you live. Now, I'm quite fortunate. Obviously, I have a good job and I can afford to pay the rent. So I'm very fortunate in that regard, but still that uncertainty about where I'm going to be living, how much I'm going to be paid on the back of that is quite a concern, and I imagine that's shared by other people in a similar position. Yeah. So the crisis is not the crisis is it's affecting people at every level. The image of the homeless person has changed. We're seeing that from like, as I referenced, that guy who has a good job in tech but isn't being paid. That's a homeless person. And this property crisis is affecting people across all incomes. It's dire. So yeah,
and as you say, like everything that the government attempts, it seems to ignite a further a few percentage points on rents and house prices.
Yeah, but the government is like that uncle or aunt or that grandparent who's not well anymore in the corner giving advice to you about what you should be doing in life. And this nonsense from the government, rent out a room in your house, or old people, you should rent out your houses, so that utter horseshit, avoiding dealing with the problem head on.
Yeah, the nursing home thing is very sort of sinister. Sign over your home in the nursing home. But Marcel, have we lost you?
No, I'm good.
I'm here in the mind. Marcel.
We were just bemoaning the rental situation here. I mean,
no, I got that until the nursing home comment that you were making.
Would it encourage you to leave Ireland, Marcel? Are all of these things conspiring to force you to get out to leave?
I'm here 11 years now, so I think it takes more than that. But and I think from a neutral perspective, and you're wondering, like as Neil mentioned, if there's anything coming from the outside, or if there's anything happen that all of the involved parties, the government, the investors, the landlords, the tenants, haven't calculated in, if thing happens, like it did in 2007, 2008, then again, I don't see like how the system could take much more strain. So and this is something, it's like I'm in a good position, renting a house. We just signed a new contract for next year. So for me personally, I'm not affected by this, but I'm seeing what's going on. I'm wondering like what the whole situation will look like next.
Yeah. Well, there was something else I wanted to say. If anybody is, anybody watching this or will be watching it the later tomorrow or whatever, and you lean to the right and you want to come on the show, you're very welcome to. We'll take all political views, and if you think that we're a bit too lefty or a bit too progressive or whatever, alt or whatever,
Love George Hook on.
Do come on, but a lot of these positions are virtually indefensible at this stage. I mean, there's obviously what's that, Johnny?
No, sorry to cut across you, John. Just George Hook thinks it's very defensible. He reckons anyone between 30 and 40 should stop whinging and get on with it. With that their generation had to go through it. It's tough. Life is tough. Well, in actual fact, I think we figured it out that life doesn't have to be as tough as they had it, and we should learn. And George Hook, I would welcome him to come on, But George has to know that we come on here and we give our opinion and our name voluntarily, and we want to change. We want to have the conversation that they're not having in George's Hook's world. So obviously George won't be able to get 10 grand for having an opinion on Broadsheet, but I welcome him on. I'd love him to put me in my place. Come on, George.
Sorry, Johnny. Do you know what's most disappointing about George Hook's comments is I think it was back in the noughties anyway, but he talked about a dark time in his life when he had financial woes, and he talked about walking Dunleary Pier, something like that. You know, and it was great that he talked about it, you know, highlighting what he went through, and for these comments today to be made, it's not good. Not good.
No, it's amazing, and to hear Ivan Yates as well on the same kind of stuff. You got to get up, and there's no. You think that they might have acquired some empathy on their own, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. But John, look what it is. It's they're the propaganda tool of the Thatcherite conservative blue shirt government. Dennis O'Brien is a blue shirt. George Hook and Ivan Yates, they're blue shirts. This is the propaganda wing of the government. So they're going to say exactly what Leo Varadkar once said.
Yeah,
that's it. So once we know what they are, then let's call them in. Well, if George has me on News Talk, I'll go on. But I think George would be great coming over here to put us in our place, as I say, and the invite's out.
Well, they're very welcome to come on, and we've had a kind of the silly season officially ends next week, so we'll have a lot of stuff to get our teeth into, and Olga never arrived tonight. She's probably still on her shift.
Still getting the shift.
She's not locked out anyway.
Still on doing the shift, so Marcel, we'll sort out your mic and earphones the next time.
Yes.
But thanks a lot for joining us tonight, Johnny Keenan, Marcel Kruger, and Neil Curran. And myself, John Preposterous Ryan. We'll see you on the site tomorrow or here next week. And apologies for all male panel. We'll have a better mix next week. Thank you very much. And a happy birthday to Frilly, by the way.
Birthday, Frilly.
Happy birthday.